Now, welcome to the Insiders. Sorry about that technical issues. Hopefully, people will find us. We're here. Hi. We're at a different address. When you guys get to talking, I'll go link it out to everyone. Sorry about the little feedback there. That was odd. Hi, gentlemen. You look great. We got Brian Hanley in his studio, Tim Everson in his living room, and Glenn Kenley back in the hospital room. Because that's what it looks like behind you every stinking time. It looks like a hospital. But that's okay, buddy. That's okay. Some of
I'm
us
trying to
need
get
help.
the lighting right. If I can't tell if it's too bright right now or if the lighting's okay.
Look what you're comparing yourself to. I mean, seriously. You could turn off your camera and be the most attractive guy on this show. Let's get going. People will find us. They're finding us already. Hello,
That's
people.
right.
Hey, seriously, if anyone's out there that has access to the original Twitter link or YouTube link, put a response in there. Maybe the YouTube's gone because I had to erase it, but put a response that we have a new address and we're going live at the YouTube site. I would appreciate it very much. Kansas State wins 31-27 in a very competitive game. Not the cleanest game, turnovers, and both coaches were yelling at the refs at points, and Lance Leipold turned into it. I've never seen him that way, but I don't watch every KU game. He was kind of a man possessed in this game against after a call. But let's just start at the top. Brian, it was a weird one, but give me your thoughts.
Well, first off, Kansas played well. Kansas came out and did a lot of different things that it didn't look like K-State was prepared to see. You know, they came out with a lot of different looks, ran an option out of the Wildcat, moved their quarterback around. They ran the ball exceptional. They just did a lot of different things, and it just didn't look like that K-State was prepared for it. I'll be honest, which was surprising because you would have thought that going into the football game that, you know, with a third string quarterback, even though they kind of played coy, I mean, that was coach's speak. You could have seen through that, you know, just by paying attention, you'd have known that the guy that Bean wasn't going to play. But you would have thought that they would have come out with a game plan to make them throw the football, and K-State didn't come out like that. They didn't come out like that at all. It was weird.
Yeah, no, it really was strange. Tim Everson, you were there. I was not there. That makes you smarter than me. Go.
It was weird. It was a weird first like 3/4 of the game. It was really kind of K-State. First off, in the first half, KU just did such a great job of just holding on to the football. I mean, they choked the life out of the game, and you know, K-State's offense did what it could when it was on the field. But I mean, it was like 3 drives, like 7+ minutes in that first half. It was a quick first half, but it was. I mean, all the credit in the world to KU's coaches because they had a game plan. Everyone was on board, and it took. I feel probably longer than it probably should have for K-State to kind of adjust and get things rolling, but they finally did, and they finally got things moving in the right direction. But it was, you know, it was scary for sure if you're a K-State fan.
No doubt about it. Glenn, you were also there with the killer social media. Besides the fact you're good at your job, you killed it on social media. But
Brandon
you were down on the field
nicely.
Yeah, you had a whole different view from the field. Thoughts?
Well, I think probably, and somebody said this in the chat actually, KU offensive coordinator Andy Kotelnicki deserves a ton of credit. I think that guy is the real deal. I mean, that guy's phenomenal. He had 1 week to get a true freshman quarterback who was a walk-on about a month ago ready, and their offense really looked pretty dang good. This is not a knock at Jason Bean or Jalen Daniels or the freshman Cole Ballard, but we've seen no matter who goes in there, right? Jalen Daniels goes in there, and we're like, he might be a player of the year. And then Jason Bean goes in there, and you're like, well, they're really still scoring plenty of points. And then they go without both those guys for this one, and they hang in there the whole way. He deserves a ton of credit. Now, K-State probably deserves some credit for making some adjustments, at least in the second half. I will say this, too. I think part of it is just that was stuff K-State hadn't seen before. Yeah. So look, Chris Kleiman said after the game he wasn't surprised by anything. They didn't do anything that he didn't know was coming. I think they thought some of that stuff was going to be coming, whether that was the Wildcat or the direct snaps. They moved a lot of guys around. But there's a difference between knowing it's coming and playing against it, right? And taking the live snaps when they're doing it. And you got some young players out there who maybe haven't taken a snap against that sort of offense in their life. They might not have seen that in high school. They might be a true freshman who haven't. So it's different. And then they see it in the first half, probably at halftime, get a better look at it. And then they ended up getting some more stops. But the offense was really resilient in this one. It felt like they weren't perfect, but they did what they needed to do. And eventually Will Howard started, I think probably there was a conversation that said, dude, you got to run the football. And when he did, dialed up a few notches.
Yeah, it was amazing. The amount of, I don't want to say junk, but creative stuff. And I think that's what surprised K-State was not that it occurred and they had prepared for everything, how often it occurred.
Yeah.
Although Brian Hanley, I must say, K-State needs to figure out how to defend the option. Why KU didn't run the option to the one side every freaking time, I'll never know, because they never got it right. Des Purnell would take the quarterback, and nobody was out there to take it was just wide open. It was embarrassing.
Well, the thing about it is, this goes back to probably the beginning of time when they started running option football. It comes back to this old tricky thing called counting, and just count to where there are less defenders. And a couple of times it just seemed like KU came to the line of scrimmage. They looked, they said, K-State's got less guys this way. We're going to run it this way. And there was nobody over there. And it looked like K-State had never even practiced against the option. There were so many times nobody had the pitch man. I'm like, oh my goodness. And there was nobody around. So I don't know. It looked like they were surprised. It looked like they were unprepared. Again, I hate to say that about the K-State coaching staff, but truth is truth. It just looked like they were unprepared. All the credit goes to the KU coaching staff, because let's just call it what it is. I think they knew that K-State had a better roster. They were a little bit undermanned. Although KU does have a good football team,
much better.
How can we win? How can we choke the life out of this game? How can we still be successful and move the football? And they've just found ways to do it.
And quite frankly, at the first drive, K-State goes, 30-something yards to Jace Brown on the first play from scrimmage, and then maybe a few plays later punch into the end zone, and then KU goes 3 and out. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm thinking at that point, oh, this is about to get ugly.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, then there was a deep ball, I think, to Phillip Brooks that there was no flag. It got broken up, and then K-State has to punt, and all of a sudden KU ties the game and takes the lead. So they really responded too. Give them a lot of credit. To give the atmosphere there was incredible. I've never seen the place that full, and I've certainly never seen the place that loud. It was a really good atmosphere. And on Thanksgiving weekend, I thought maybe some of their students were going to go home because it was, not Thanksgiving weekend, but the week before Thanksgiving. Friday was their last day of classes before Thanksgiving. And so I thought, well, a lot of them might go home, but that place, you couldn't have found a seat. It was incredible.
Yeah. I wondered about that, Fitz, because were the only one of us probably that would have been there that year whenever K-State played in the height of the Mangino days in KU. Was it that packed in there? Do you remember?
I remember it packed, but I don't remember it having that level of atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like they kind of understood they were dabbling in greatness, in good football, but it didn't feel real. I don't know how to exactly describe it. It was a Todd Reesing type of thing. I think that Todd was so, good that maybe it was just him and Mangino put together, which I think it was. But this feels more substantive. I think we all agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
The quarterback situation shows that. If you'd gone to the third string quarterback in that era, it wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
This feels like it has depth, and the players are at a level of believing that. I think that it rubs off in the student body. And Brian, that's what's different the most about KU. You can talk about the talent, you can talk about the play calling, but brother, they believe. They
do.
That opening sequence Glenn referenced would have been it in the past.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They didn't flinch. They didn't come close to flinching. And honestly, K-State did. When Kansas answered, they kind of were back on their heels a little bit, like, what's going on? This isn't the script. We've seen the script 14 times. This isn't it. But they found a way to win.
They did find a way to win, and that's kind of the mark of a good team,
Mhm.
a mature football team, to be able to find a way to win on the road. Because again, this was not K-State's A effort, and a game. It definitely was not. And to be honest, it kind of reminded me of the Oklahoma State game.
Yep.
Come out not prepared, get hit square in the mouth, and we fall back, fall down. And against Oklahoma State, we staggered up. Against KU, we got up. And there is a huge difference between the two.
Yeah.
And we got up, and then we fought back, and we went and we found a way to win the game. And that, again, it shows growth of a team. Because, again, Oklahoma State, I mean, it just seemed to be the same type of thing, and they found a way. This time it's like, hold on a second. We're better than they are. If we just go out here and execute, things will be fine. And they went out and they executed and did the things that they needed to do to go win the football game. Again, coaching is part of that too. Getting the guys to believe in their abilities, putting together a different plan, because the first plan they had to scrap, and they just did. It just wasn't working. And to understand, hey, man, life is tough in the Big 12. Life is just tough on the road. KU is not the same old KU, and these guys can play. If we're going to win, if we still have the opportunity to get to the places that we're trying to get to, we got to win this football game, and they did it.
Yeah, and Brian, let's say this too. I think K-State deserves credit that you're giving them. I've seen a lot on social media, and this is just a rivalry. It would have happened the other way too. I'm sure it would have if KU won the game. But I've seen a lot of from KU's side. Well, K-State didn't even win the game. We just lost. We didn't play good. We didn't have our quarterback. We gave that game away. We were the better team, but they just somehow found a way to win the game. K-State deserves credit. They made one or two more plays. Guys, it was a tiny margin, but they made one or two more plays, and you got to give them credit. Now, with every play, you can say, oh, the true freshman quarterback threw the pick in the end zone. You could say Marquise Siegel made a great play to get the pick in the end zone. You could say this guy didn't adjust for the option well enough. You could say so-and-so made a great block on the option, right? So every play you can either say, well, we beat ourselves, but somebody on the other side had to make a play for that to happen. Same thing with that pick. Well, why did he throw the pick? Did K-State bring good pressure? Did they have good coverage? You have to give credit to the Wildcats, and I think that's natural in a rivalry. You don't want to say, well, they just made a few extra plays. You want to say, well, we could have beat them, but we got to give the K-State guys their props. We've talked a lot about the secondary. That group's come a really long way, and the offense, like I said, made just enough plays. It wasn't perfect, but made just enough plays and made just enough adjustments after. Guys, K-State was down 11 points, and KU had the ball.
Yes.
Like KU had the ball and a chance to go up 18 points. This almost got ugly. I saw Gene Taylor go to the bathroom in the press box, and we just didn't say anything to each other. I just was like, we're just not going to talk because I don't think he wants to talk to me right now. And he was in a better mood after the game.
Tim, I want to build off that just real quick. There were so many moments in this game that felt like if that play goes another way, the whole game changes. A blocked extra point certainly is the first one that happened, because if they don't block that extra point and scoop it up, then we're looking at, either a 3-point margin or a 1-point margin, depending on if they get the return. Either way, it's a field goal margin that they can kick instead of throw that pass that ended up an interception. And of course, there was the dropped interception that would have been a pick six for Kansas. And at that point of the game, Tim, I'm thinking Will Howard's in his kind of meltdown mode that he had at Oklahoma State. He's not seeing the defense. He's in his own head. He's panicking. And then boom, Trayshawn Ward takes it 57 yards on a run up the middle. And I think that settled Will down. And I think that those back-to-back plays just changed the outcome of this game completely.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, going down 18 on the road in that environment in the second half.
Yeah.
If that would have happened, especially on a pick six, which is so demoralizing to come back from. This could have really turned ugly after that. But I don't know. There is just something about seeing things going right and then kind of getting your mind back where it needs to be, kind of getting settled. Keep in mind that, like, going back to what we said earlier, K-State's offense was barely on the field in the first half. And so it took quite a bit for them to kind of get back into a rhythm and kind of feel normal again. And kind of once they did that, they got going, they got down there. I believe that was the DJ Giddens touchdown, the 1 yard touchdown at the goal line.
Yeah.
And after that, after they scored and got things back,
And they got the 2-point conversion there. Will ran that in.
Yes. Things felt, even though that they weren't ahead yet, things were like, okay, things are moving the way that they should be moving. There was a sense of calm that I think that kind of set in after that touchdown, and those two plays were huge in making that happen.
As Cole Carmody pointed out on our post-game podcast, which was recorded Sunday, it's up. If you're interested in listening to that, Cole had some really interesting thoughts. He sat in for me as I coughed at home. That this was 4 touchdowns against 4 touchdowns. The entire difference of this game was 2 extra points. And Tim dies. Tim's gone. And the entire difference of this game was 2 extra points. One that was blocked and returned for a 3-point swing. And then because of that, K-State goes for 2.
1 for 2.
And picks up an extra point with a 2-point conversion. Boys, that's 4 points. Yep. It's amazing how tight this game was. But Brian, I think at the end of the day, the belief that we're going to win was a little bit stronger in the hearts of K-State players. I think it was Will Howard said after the game, none of us thought we were going to lose this game. Even when it was down 11, we had confidence we were going to win it, which is a hard-trained and hard-earned trait to get, to not just think, but truly believe you're going to win that game.
Yeah. And it comes from being in the situation, more often than not. It's one of those things that I used to talk about. I remember as a player just saying, hey, man, like, we've been in the situation before, and if you've been in the situation before, and it doesn't matter. I know a lot of times people try to pan off and say that high school stuff doesn't matter. Yeah, it kind of does when it comes to being in situations. I'm not saying that it's the same as a college situation, with players and stuff, but just being in situations and understanding, it's hard to simulate that in practice, although coaches do, and the punishment is usually running. So I hated it. But at the same time, it's just like when you get in those situations, it's just, you have to believe that you are better and that you are going to win. And I think that's the belief that they didn't have, or against Oklahoma State, they just didn't do it. They didn't play well. And then when it came time to try to play well, they tried to flip a switch. Where against KU, it was like, hey, guys, we're here. They're not doing anything, or they're not blowing us out. We're not playing awful. We just have to start playing well. And they're letting us stay in this football game. And look, KU threw the kitchen sink at K-State.
Yep.
Yeah.
They did. I know a lot of people, and what you said, Glenn, talking about, a lot of people going back and forth saying, well, they played their third string quarterback. Let's not act like Jason Bean played mistake-free football the whole time that he was playing. So you don't know exactly what was going to happen. He could have thrown 3 picks against K-State. Their whole game plan could have been different, and I believe it would have been different.
I agree.
They're not going to do the same things that they did.
Right.
So to say that, I just don't have any belief in that. But you're right, Fitz. Will Howard, the leader of the football team, the leaders of the football team just stood up and said, hey, man, we're not losing this football game. Our opportunity, we're not going to lose this football game. And I just believe that belief and that ability will always shine through.
Yeah, Tim, Will Howard. I mean, again, he takes another step towards. He did not play that well, but to win that game and the way they won it, he was so instrumental with the 2-point conversion and then running in the last touchdown. It was an epic performance in terms of magnitude.
He was so good at the end of the second half to put the game away that if you don't think about the whole game critically, you're like, you think that Will had a great game, but really he and Ballard had close to a similar game stat wise. Ballard had 1 more interception. They both had like 160 some 70 passing yards. But it was super interesting because they don't do quarterback run almost the entire game.
Yeah.
They don't do, and when we're talking about it, Cole and I are talking about it up in the press box. Like, just super, like they're keying in on it. They need to do something. And then finally, when they get down into the red zone on the go-ahead drive, Will Howard breaks free on a 15-yard run, gallops into the end zone, lets the nice KU fans in that end zone know who owns the particular dwelling that he is currently in, and maybe some other words attached to it.
Yeah.
And locks the thing down. And then obviously on that final drive, the
Yeah.
33-second put-away drive, Will had a couple runs there as well to go along with DJ Giddens just being an absolute monster.
Beast.
And he made a couple huge throws there too. I wanted to point out the first one to Jace Brown actually was a dot to start the game. I think that kind of set the tone. They got, not only did they score on that drive, but it just kind of was like, hey, by the way, I can throw it over your head, so you better back off. And then the game winning, we could call it the game winning throw for that first down to Phillip Brooks. That was a scary play, and it was like, does he have anything? Where's he going? What's going on? And he then they had to review it. But he hit him, and he got it there, and that was the one that iced the game. After that, they ran out the clock, and you can credit the O-line for some help there. But if he missed, was that fourth down?
It was third down.
Third.
We were
third
talking
down.
about,
I guess they wouldn't have gone from fourth, but it was third down, and they needed that one. So that was a huge play.
Yeah.
Glenn, I want to go right back to you. The main storyline, I guess, in terms of players was the running backs.
Mm-hmm.
One from Junction City, one from Lawrence. Two really good performances. Devin Neal's a beast. I've always
so
loved
good.
him from day one. I think he's an NFL back. But again, DJ Giddens proved how tough he is between the tackles. I mean, he was getting hit early on almost every carry and just going through it. I don't know how many tackles he broke, but it was pretty cool to see two Kansas kids in a game of ranked teams being the stars of their offense.
It was really cool. Yeah. DJ Giddens is legit, man. He was behind Deuce Vaughn. I think we always thought, okay, well, he can give us 4 carries for 14 yards, right? And give Deuce a breather. But he's legit. He's hard to tackle. I mean, that sounds like I'm oversimplifying it, but like that's the best way I can put it. It's almost like effortless. Sometimes he is running guys over. Sometimes he is shoving you off. Other times it's like he kind of will just like do one of these, kind of like almost like toss his hand out to the side as if to be like, no, you stay over there. And it doesn't really look like he puts much force into it, and the guy goes falling to the ground. DJ Giddens is legit, and this is his first year really getting true snaps. I mean, I think he can be a lot better, but Devin Neal was phenomenal. At some point, I think I said to the person next to me while I was filming the game, I go, the stats wouldn't load. The service is not great at the stadium there, but I couldn't find the stats. So I go, I don't know how many rushing yards Devin Neal has, but in my brain, it feels like he has 320. Like, it felt like they give it to him over and over and over. And at some point, if I can be honest, I was wishing that K-State would say, you have to beat us with somebody else, right? Like, we're going to zero in on Devin Neal, and either you're going to have to beat us in the deep ball, you're going to have to give it to a receiver in the motion or something. But at some point, I was like, there's nobody on Devin Neal. It's Devin Neal. Like, this guy's not a secret. We know he was the top prospect in Kansas. He's a junior there, and he's been good for 3 years now. Like, at some point, I was like, how is he the guy that we're missing? It was frustrating, but give him credit, man. I don't know if it was K-State missed him sometimes, but other times he just was really good. They may have had a guy on him, and he broke a tackle. So, yeah, he's a stud. He deserves a lot of credit. And quite frankly, what he's done there in Lawrence, staying home, and it's actually been pretty cool.
Brian, give me your irony level here. How magnitude from 1 to 10 is the irony of special teams being what beat Kansas in this game? I'll put you on the spot.
I mean, look, we talked about it already. I'll throw it out there. It's a 10. It's a 10. It's just a 10, man. Look, there are so many. I've seen so many conflicting people out there talking about this, Fitz. It's like, look, there's no reason to continue to badmouth Sean Snyder. There's no reason for that. But there's also no reason to continue to give the man credit for things that he didn't do. I go, so just let it be. And I don't understand why it just can't be that, but it wasn't. People are not going to do that. We're fans. All of us are, which means we're fanatics. So, and I get that part, and I actually love that part. But yeah, it was ironic that happened. Yeah, that's all I can say about it. It was just ironic that is what it came down to, special teams. And Sean Snyder was a part of it.
Yep. This is The Insiders, our weekly endeavor into K-State sports. Next week, Kansas State plays host to Iowa State in a lovely 7 p.m. game. But the good news is it's on Fox National, so you finally have a big stage, K-State fans, upon which your team can stand. But this is the stage of the moment. This little box on your computer or your TV or wherever you're watching, please hit the like button, that thumbs up, leave some comments. We got so many comments over here. I'm going to have to be staring at the right to try to find all the questions for later in the show. And we are going to take your questions from the comments in a little bit, but make sure you're following this page, hit the subscribe button. And after the show, go hit Big B's own page subscribe button so you can catch him. And we will be right back after this very short break. And you know how short it is if you're a regular viewer. It's magic. We're back. Hey, guys, let's move on to Iowa State. I'm struck. I could talk about the KU game quite a bit, but let's look forward. I'm struck by this fact. We're now halfway, almost done with the season, and 8 conference games behind Kansas State, and I feel like the 4 toughest teams have been on the road, and the 4 easiest teams in terms of matchups, certainly. At the time, because UCF I think is better now at quarterback, have been at home. They've blown everyone out. Iowa State's somewhere in the middle of the good rankings, but whoever wants to take this, I feel like this is going to be a good test. This is not going to be a blowout. Iowa State's defense, this is a Big Ten West team. I mean, they really are. They just muddy it up. The score never gets too high. They struggle to score, but you do too. Right. I feel like it's going to be an in-the-mud scrap to see who comes out on top.
I'd be real scared if this was in Ames.
Yep.
I'm still concerned about it because that Iowa State defense is no joke. Ask Texas, who scored 6 points in the first half last week. But this team has just played so well at home. They love K-State, loves playing at home. Loves.
Yeah.
Loves it. And I have a hard time believing that they're not going to find a way to play super well. Now, maybe Iowa State will play well too, and maybe both teams play really well, and it'll be a really good game. But I have a hard time believing that they're not going to be ready for Saturday.
And quite frankly, K-State has looked like invincible at home. They've been like ridiculously good. And so the question that we're trying to figure out, and you mentioned it, Fitz, is like, have they looked insanely good at home because they're insanely good at home? Or have they played maybe some teams that aren't that great when they're at home? Houston and TCU and the non-con games, of course. So that's kind of the question. And you could make the argument that if K-State's road and home were flipped this year, how many of the home games do they drop on the road? I don't know if any of them. And how many of those road games do they win if they're in Bill Snyder Family Stadium? Maybe a couple of those might go the other way, a 61-yard field goal and an overtime loss in Austin. So you can make an argument it's actually been tough on them to have the road and home games that they've had. This will for sure be their toughest home test. So I guess we'll find out if they are invincible. You mentioned just that power of belief, even in the Sunflower Showdown, Fitz. I think that plays a role here. Like, these guys believe that they can't lose at home. They've been so good at home that going out and being up 28 points at halftime is just what they know when they play in this stadium this year. So that's like the norm to them. That'll be like the expectation. So I guess on the flip side of that, how do they respond then if Iowa State comes out and goes up 10-0, right? If it's the middle of the second quarter and K-State's gotten 2 first downs in the game. So we'll see about that too. But I think they're going to come out juiced up. And of course, it's senior day and all those things. Last game of the year, but last home game of the year. So the energy will definitely be there. And we don't know the tiebreaker, but they haven't been mathematically eliminated from the.
We'll get to that. Brian, he brought up senior day. You've gone through a senior day.
Yeah.
Is it truly motivating or almost a distraction? You've got all this stuff going on before the game. Your family's there. Everyone's cheering for you, but you just want to play.
Just want to play. And now here's the difference, and I'll just be flat out honest. 1998 was different. That was a different deal. the hoopla before the game, it wasn't that. I mean, I don't know how big of a deal or how much it is now compared to then. Before they announced your name, and I thought that was cool, especially as an offensive lineman. I never had my name announced at all in the stadium, so I thought that was outstanding for me to be able to run out there with my family there. But it was Nebraska, and we hadn't beat them ever. I mean, it didn't seem like we had beat them forever. We were playing for something totally different. So that was just like, get this over with. Let's get to the game. This might be a little bit different for guys, but I would imagine the guys just want to get out there and play. Having your family there and going through that is all cool. But I got to believe the guys just want to, okay, let's get through this and let's get to the game.
Yep, I agree. It will be an interesting atmosphere at night. Might be a little chilly at the Bill, but not for Tim and I. We'll be in the press box. It might get chilly though, Tim, when we have those ice cream sandwiches.
Possibly.
I know.
Yeah, that sounds rough for you guys.
I know.
Even in Christmas.
We're suffering in our own private ways.
Truly.
This game is significant because K-State just needs to win it to control what they can control. And the tiebreaker situation in the Big 12 is a complete mess. Been screwed up beyond belief.
Yeah.
And I love that the Big 12 offered clarity for everything except what needed clarity.
Everything except like the one that everyone wanted to know about.
Yeah. I mean, they explained everything that a typical sixth grader who knows sports could tell you what the tiebreakers would be. Except what happens if there's 4 teams, and that's what they really want to avoid. Now, let me explain real quick to everyone that I think most of you at this point understand this. K-State needs one of 2 things to happen. They need first of all, they have to win. Period. I keep leaving that step out. Nothing else matters. That's a big part of it. And if they do win, they need losses from Oklahoma and Oklahoma State. Unbreaks the tie right there.
Both.
They win. They move to the Big 12 championship. Both, not one. If one loses, they lose the tiebreaker individually to both of those teams.
Right.
So that doesn't help. Or they need Texas to lose and Oklahoma and Oklahoma State and K-State all to win. So there's a 4-way tie. And that was specifically avoided by the Big 12 in that social media release they did. They did not want to touch that because, guys, I hate to say this, I don't think they know.
No,
and of course not.
And they don't want to put anything out there because last time they put something out there, then it was bad and they had to change it. And so they were like, let's not say anything because if we say something, we're not very confident we're going to get it right. And if we get it wrong, we haven't shown that we're willing to either say we got it wrong or willing to say, hey, that's the rule. We'll fix it next year. We're going to have to change it. And they said, we already changed it once. By the way, said it wasn't a change, right? Like, hey, guys, we're going to do the Insiders at 5 p.m. next week. We're not changing the time for the start, you guys. We're starting at the same time that we've always started at 5 p.m.
Yeah, we're just clarifying the start time so you better understand it. Yeah. And, I honestly don't think they know how their own tiebreakers work because they copied them from another conference, the Big 12, and nobody said, okay, what's this actually mean? And until it actually came up, I can tell you this: if the tiebreakers as written are properly applied, which they've proven they don't believe in that, the championship game would end up in a 4-way tie being Kansas State and Texas. But here's maybe why I'll let them off the hook a little bit. Maybe why they left this out of that scenario is for this all to go down. Not only do you need those 4 to end up tied, but Kansas has to win at Cincinnati to snap everything in place, which I think they will. And what you do, though, is there's not a complete round robin. There's nothing definitive in there like Oklahoma State beating both of them. Nobody's played everyone. There's nothing definitive. And if you want to say, well, what's the overall record? It doesn't matter in this situation. It shouldn't.
Right.
But Kansas State, honestly, would be in the worst situation just on that. They'd be 0-2.
Right.
But that's not how you do it. That's not how it's written. You slide to the next level, and that is the highest seeded common opponent. Right. So however you finish the rankings is your seeding, the highest seeded common opponent. And that, if it all takes place and KU wins, would be both KU and Iowa State. So now they have 2 games with which to compare. And K-State and Texas are 2-0. That solves the tiebreaker.
Yeah.
I've seen that there's a guy out there who's done his own site, and he seems to apply that only to decide the top team, and then goes into a three-way tiebreaker, which favors Oklahoma State. And I'm like, that's not how you do this at all.
That's not how you do it.
Yeah, and if that's how the Big 12 does it, I've never said that K-State should file a lawsuit, but if that's what they do, K-State needs to be in court that afternoon.
Absolutely.
Because that is a completely wrong application of the tiebreaker rules as written or as understood or as used anywhere else in the world, including the Pac-12 that has used it in the past. So it's going to be very interesting. And the Big 12 is, I'm going to be very blunt here. I think the Big 12 scared shitless that's going to happen because they
are. They're 100% scared, and they should be because this is their own doing.
Yep.
It's literally their own doing. Here's the thing that I was saying all along is, do you know how mad K-State fans would be? And this is how I sympathize with Oklahoma State. If it's a three-way tie and I beat the other two teams, I don't get in. Do you know how mad as K-State fans we would be and should be if we didn't get in a three-way tie and we beat the other two teams because somebody writ something on a piece of paper, a technicality that has nothing to do with on-field
activity. Put a comma in the wrong spot.
Unbelievable how that works. And for all of this to come down, it's just I'm sorry, I got PTSD from 1998 coming back to me on how teams get screwed because I've seen it happen. I lived it. I've seen it happen to other teams. It's like, if you can't get people in a room to agree on tiebreakers, I promise everybody, it is not that hard to figure out. It really isn't that hard to figure out. Just put it down. Everybody agrees and do it by make sense. Yeah. That's all you have to do is use common sense. It doesn't have to be some long, drawn-out Lego mumbo jumbo. It just doesn't have to be that unless you make it that the Big 12 has. And you know me, I'm rooting for chaos. I am 100% rooting for chaos, and I hope it blows up in their face.
And let's just simplify this as much as we possibly can. The Big 12 had to choose between the lesser of two evils. We have a silly rule in which Oklahoma State doesn't win a tiebreaker with two teams they beat, or we change our rules in week 11 of the college football season.
Yes.
Which one's worse? And I don't know the answer to that. Clearly, they chose the lesser of the two evils was to change the rules rather than have a silly rule. I think a lot of people would say they should have changed the rules after this season rather than in week 11. But the most annoying part to me is not that they changed the rules in week 11, and I touched on it. It's that they refuse to say it's a change.
Yeah.
The rule simply states, if not every tied team has played each other, proceed to step 2, meaning proceed past head-to-head. Forget head-to-head.
It said that.
And they're
flat,
saying,
flat out.
Yeah, it says it. It'd be one thing if it didn't say when to proceed past head-to-head, and they were like, well, we assumed that you would look at it even if they don't all play each other, but it does say. And so that's the most absurd part to me. I think people in my mentions have been saying the Big 12 conference is gaslighting us, which is a funny thing to say out loud, but it's kind of true.
It's the truth. But it is the truth, though. And here's the deal. What bothers me the most out of all of this is not the actual tiebreaker itself or how it's going to be applied or anything like that. It's how the conference has acted. I mean, look, all of us have praised Brett Yormark so much since he's taken over, but this is some chicken you-know-what stuff that they're doing. And if this is how they're going to act, this is the first real I don't know. I don't want to say I don't know. It's the first time that they've had their member schools pissed off at them for something, which is going to happen in a conference. It happens to every conference. You're going to run into situations where you're going to make some portion of your conference's fan base mad. I would have respected this whole situation so much if they would have either done some kind of, full statement or some kind of video statement from Yormark, which that he likes being in front of the camera. He likes talking to reporters. He loves talking to reporters. Loves it. Loves it. He spent his whole time here talking to Dennis Dodd behind the scenes, making sure that he knew what stuff that he wanted to do to make the new landscape.
And Barry Trammell, apparently.
And Barry Trammell.
Yes. But here's the thing, Tim. I agree with you with all of that. The problem that I have is people getting up in arms. the athletic directors agreed.
Yeah.
It'd be one thing if nobody agreed and it was just, oh, they put this down and nobody knew. They all knew and agreed to this. So if you agreed to it, then you shouldn't be up in
Right.
arms trying to change it at the
Right.
last hour.
Yeah.
You can't be for that. You literally can't be for that if you agreed to the rules. Otherwise, why not change other rules?
Yeah.
I mean, where does it stop? That's the whole thing, is like, where does it stop? You can change any rule that you want to, whenever you want to appease whoever you want to appease. Well,
Right.
how does that work? The rules don't work that way. Last time I checked.
Let me point out a couple things here for anyone listening along, particularly if you're not a K-Stater. Brian's referenced 98. Yeah, it's 25 years ago. That's how strong the feelings are at K-State about how the Big 12 treated K-State in 1998. K-State is probably one play away from playing for a national championship in football. A heartbreaking loss, an unexplainably heartbreaking loss on an overtime touchdown that wasn't even close to a touchdown. That's a whole other thing. So K-State misses out on that, ends up ranked third in the BCS standings. I believe it was BCS at that time. I mean, just by a fraction, they still don't play for the national championship. So that means they should play in the top bowl available to the Big 12, right? No. The Bulls went ahead and invited everyone because they thought K-State was going to win. And the only one that was open was the Alamo Bowl, which was the equivalent of whatever the Phoenix Bowl is this year. I don't even know what it is. It's been so many different things. I mean, it was a fifth in the pecking order. And K-State has to go play in that after almost playing for a national championship. It stung the university, it stung the football program, and it really hurt the players. I don't blame you guys for not being fully engaged. Plus, ran into Drew Brees, which it turns out he was pretty good.
Yeah.
So that just sticks around. The conference literally said, no, we're not going to fix this. We'll fix it for next year so it doesn't happen to someone else. And they literally called it the K-State rule. So now, 25 years later, the Big 12's maybe possibly facing a similar situation. And they say, screw it. We're going to fix it.
Yeah.
And it's K-State that comes out on the short end. The rule was bad. I want to be clear on that. The rule's bad. Brian's right. It should be. If you're 2-0, it doesn't matter what Oklahoma and K-State did if they played.
Nope.
That Oklahoma State was winning that tiebreaker.
Beat them both. Yeah.
But it didn't say that in the agreed upon rules, as Glenn said, the ADs.
Right.
Everyone agreed upon this.
Yes.
And now I don't think they quite understand their next step. I don't think they understand exactly how to apply that, because you got a bunch of people in there that I don't think are college football people, or even a lot of people I don't think are really sports people.
Yeah.
Because now let me get to my second point. Brett Yormark is the wartime commissioner of this conference. He is Churchill. He's brash. He brings people together on one side. He pisses people off on the other side, but he's getting you through a really combative time in college athletics. And only because of him, and I believe this, is the Big 12 even facing these scenarios into the future, because his conference would be dead if the ADs and presidents hadn't reacted immediately and Yormark hadn't picked up the ball and ran with it. And really, his move to jump the line and negotiation saved this conference flat out. If Pac-12 takes that deal from ESPN that the Big 12 was offered after the Pac-12 said no, the Big 12's dead. He ushered this conference through a really bad situation, but Churchill couldn't govern without the war. And I feel like once you get on the other side of maybe the ACC or whatever the next wave of this is, Brett Yormark will move on and someone will become the peacetime commissioner of the Big 12, and we'll get there. But this minutia of daily management it is not something that he's fully equipped to do, because he's not a college sports guy.
Well, and here's what I'll say too. When you have something happen like this, all that other, is not cute anymore, right? Oh, the halftime show, and I think like the day after they announced like a partnership with like WWE, and we're gonna have this performer, and we're gonna have what I mean. We're gonna give you this at media days, and it's like all that stuff that typically I'd actually be all for and be like, this is what's Yormark's think cooler, hipper, younger. I'd be like, this is sweet. I don't care anymore. Like,
nobody cares. That's
when
right,
that happens, all of a sudden you have a fan base who is like, I could care less if we got the Big Show or Dwayne The Rock Johnson or whoever bringing out a belt after the game, because we're not in the game because you changed the rules at week 11, you know?
That's right.
And I don't think anyone is probably wondering this, but if anyone is, why people are so passionate about this, you're talking about not only an impact on this year, guys, but like the opportunity to go win back-to-back Big 12 championships. That changes recruiting. You're talking about a new era of the Big 12, and Chris Kleiman can go into the houses of young men and say, we are running this conference now. Look at what we just did the last 2 years. That we are the premier football school in this conference. If they were to go there and win the football game, you're talking about a decision made in week 11 of the season that could have like lasting impacts. And I'm not saying it will. Don't take this the wrong way. I'm not saying, Casey doesn't get in this year. It's all downhill from here. Cash it in. But it certainly has an impact. Like that changes things. To be playing on that stage, College Game Day was at K-State TCU last year. To be playing on that stage, to do it against a team like Texas, I mean, it would be 99.9% of America probably would be K-State fans for the day. So, that it has a massive impact, and it was a big decision. I will say this, I don't envy their decision. They were going to have to piss off Oklahoma State fans or K-State fans. They had to choose.
Yeah,
and quite frankly, I wouldn't have wanted to piss off Mike Gundy either.
Yeah, I mean the mullet. I mean, they're basically the same fan base. You know what I mean? Along with Iowa State,
we could have gotten like a new. I was talking to one of my coworkers. We could have gotten like a new epic rant where he said, like, "Come after me, I'm a man. I'm 53." With the new age.
It doesn't roll off the tongue.
No, not quite.
I will say, Fitz, going off of what you were saying about your mark. And the Big 12 offices, and maybe there not being a whole lot of maybe college football people. I know for a fact that there's at least one college football person in that office that's very close to the commissioner's ear, who spent a lot of time on the K-State campus that probably could have had some insight on this thing, and that's Tim Weiser. Where was Tim? Where was Tim on?
He's technically retired. He's now the what's he's got a fancy title.
He's not tech. He's still doing stuff.
He's now the fifth. I don't know. It's some insider reference, but yeah, he's less involved. But you're right. There was another K-State former member of the athletic department in the management of the Big 12, and I just saw it today. He's moved on, which I didn't know. That's very interesting. We don't have a ton of questions here, but this one's pretty good from Jermaine Bell. Jermaine, I don't remember seeing your name. I appreciate you contributing. Just give me your thoughts. Will Howard has his COVID year. Any chance he comes back or wants to come back to college football? It could be an interesting problem for Chris Kleiman.
Or do they want him to come back is probably the next question.
That's exactly it. I mean, you were talking about the career record holder for passing touchdowns, but you can't run the risk of Avery Johnson saying, well, look, I thought I was going to be the starter by now, so we're going to go find a place to start, because that has ramifications years into the future.
I've thought about this a lot, and I don't know the answer. To me, it would be the idea of Will Howard transferring would be crazy to me, right? Like, this is a guy who loves K-State. The coaching staff loves him. He's been loyal to K-State. He's fought through adversity. But also the idea of not starting Avery Johnson for 2 straight years is crazy to me, quite frankly, And I'm not saying anything about the decision they made this year, but for next year. And like you said, Fitz, you're talking about a guy in Avery Johnson who was invited to a camp last year where they only invited the best 11 quarterbacks in their mind in the country, right? Quite frankly, you're talking about a guy and you say, what's his ceiling? His ceiling is the Heisman Trophy. And I know I'm not saying he's going to win a Heisman. There's still a lot to be seen. We don't know yet, but the potential is through the roof. And I love Will Howard. I think Will Howard's great. If I was on K-State staff, I would be very worried, or at least you got to have a conversation with Avery Johnson, right? And say, I don't think is that a risk you're willing to run of losing that guy, because that other teams, guys. I talked to a K-State baseball coach, and guys don't need to be in the portal for other teams to be talking. So that if Will Howard's coming back, even if Avery is okay with it at first, coaches are going to be in Avery's ear. Hey man, you're playing 13, 14 games for us this year. You're starting for us this year. This is going to hurt your development. Sit out this year, man. It might hurt your NFL chances, right? Like, he's going to have a lot of voices in his ear. So it's a complex situation, and one that I've been trying not to think about too much, to be honest.
No.
Yeah. But I think the answer, I don't think it's that difficult. I'll be flat out honest with everybody. Look, Will Howard has done a lot of things for K-State. He's sacrificed a lot for K-State. I think it's time that Will Howard be a little selfish here and go somewhere and go play, because he's not going to be the starting quarterback at Kansas State University next year. That is not going to happen.
No.
I don't care what anybody says. That is not going to happen. And it's not because he isn't capable.
Right.
It's not because he's not capable. It's because Avery Johnson is the future of K-State at the quarterback position. And if all things are equal, he's better than him. And he will be better than him. And again, that is nothing against Will Howard. Like I said, I think it's time Will Howard get a little selfish for himself and go somewhere else, because he's not ready to go and just go be a pro. I'm not saying he can't make a pro roster, but it's not his time to just go be a pro. Go somewhere, go play another year of college football. And again, talking about being a pro, let's just be honest. If Will Howard can be a pro, that's fine, but let's just be realistic. He's not going to be a top 2-day draft pick. I mean, if he gets drafted at all, it'll be a day 3 draft pick.
Right.
So go somewhere else and play college football. He can go to a Power 5 conference somewhere and go be a starter. This is not, he would have to go somewhere and drop down a level or go to a group of 5. He doesn't have to do that at all. He can go somewhere that needs a quarterback and be very competitive and be on a very good football team. But the one thing that I know for a fact, and it's not because I've talked to somebody or I know football, he will not be the starting quarterback at Kansas State University next year. If he were to come back, that is, barring injury, that's just not going to happen.
No, I agree.
Which is wild, right? We were talking about a guy who, if enough things went right for K-State this weekend, as far as other teams lose, K-State wins, he could win back-to-back Big 12 titles, and we're saying, hey, he might not be invited back type of vibe, which is crazy to say. I think that's one, a testament to how good people think Avery Johnson's going to be. And two, guys, Will might want to go somewhere where he doesn't have a 4-star, one of the top prospects in the country,
Absolutely,
kind of breathing down his neck, kind of,
Absolutely.
and where he's not in a situation where he's saying, if I mess up here, boy, are they wanting him on the field, because it's like that right now. And quite frankly, I think he's handled it like a pro, but he might be kind of fed up. He might
and
be
that's
like,
why I said,
I'm tired of every time I throw a pick, you guys want me off the field. He might be tired of it, and he might be, you know what, I am going to hit the portal.
Well,
and that's why I said be a little selfish. That's all.
Yeah, I think
don't be selfish, man.
Replicating what he's done at K-State somewhere else is a powerful message that I can go to Pitt. He's a Pennsylvania kid. Pitt might need a quarterback. They might need some fans. I saw the stands at their game. But he could go closer to home and play a final season. He puts up good numbers in the ACC. I can see him in the Big Ten West. That whole division is going to be rebuilt next year. I think about 4 coaches going to get fired. They're going to be rebuilding rosters. It'll be chaotic. So we'll see if that plays out.
Nebraska head coach Will Howard, Nebraska starting quarterback Will Howard.
There would be so much irony in that. It would be incredible. It would be absolutely amazing.
I'm glad that you said it, Tim, because I was mentally, as Fitch was talking, trying to figure out what would be the funniest one, and that would probably be up there. It's got to be Nebraska.
Well, boys, we fought through some technical issues. We struggled through. We got another one. Not a ton of questions in the comments. A ton of comments. We did at one point today go over 200 live viewers, which is a threshold we had not broken. And I think it's because of the damn turkey right up there. Right there.
Absolutely.
Don't call me that.
That's the turkey right there. I'm sorry. I pointed the wrong way. There we go. Whatever. It's hard to do. I could never do the weather, Glenn. I could never. This storm front is, anyhow, that's it for the insiders.
Couldn't either.
Yeah.
I struggle enough with the sports.
Exactly. We appreciate you listening. Got lots of coming this week. Nothing changes. We might feed up on turkey on Thursday, but all the regular stuff's coming, including the pregame podcast. Big B will be back for that. And the Friday walkthrough. We're going to record that a little early this week. K-State, Iowa State, 7 p.m. at the Bill. It's senior day. It's the last game of the regular season, and it's essential for K-State to win this if they want to muck up the Big 12. And I think we can all agree at this point, muck the Big 12. We appreciate it so much. And let me get to my right thing here as we close up shop. Man, boys, I've really enjoyed doing this show. I really
Yes.
have. And onward we go. Football season's over next week, but I think we all agree we'll be back for at least a few more episodes and maybe a lot more. We don't know. We're going to keep it a secret for now. Thanks for listening.